Hello, and welcome to the Innovia Conversation. I'm Steve Waltz.
And I'm Jeff Pergolski.
And today, Jeff, our podcast is meet one of our newest members of Innovia on our account management team. Are you excited about that?
I am, and let me just say we are off to an excellent start. You didn't stumble at all on that intro. It was great.
Nice.
So who is the newest member of our account management team, Steve?
Well, we're pretty fortunate. Somebody that we've known for quite a while. It's Jim Augenstein. Jim, welcome.
Thanks very much, Steve and Jeff.
And Jim, I was thinking of when I first met you. You came to South Bend and did a meeting, and since then I've seen you at meetings, and we've broken bread together a few times. And so when I heard you were joining our team, I was very excited. So a lot of us internally know you, and some of our customers probably know you. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh yeah, thanks very much. Actually, I think the last time we bumped into each other, you were stalking me up in Vancouver. I think it was.
I was stalking.
Yeah, something like that.
Because we were out of wine. It's cocktail hour, I think, is what it was.
That's right. They closed up early. Right. Okay, great. So, hey, it's great to be here. A little bit about me. So, I've been in this world since the early '90s. Actually, I started out in this as a Solomon user way back, working for a consumer products company down here in Costa Mesa. Actually, we were just talking with Jeff about his skate background. We did skate shirts. We were right next to the Etnies shop, and we were part of a kind of a larger company that did skate and surf apparel. So that's kind of how I got started in the Solomon world. And from that space, I moved into kind of the consulting side and worked for a small partner in Southern California that did Solomon. And then through the pre-Y2K thing, it kind of merged up into larger and larger companies, primarily through acquisition of the company I was working with, and did Great Plains. Now we know it as GP. Did some Exapta. Now we know that as AX with a partner, and then ultimately ended up with what is now known as Business Central, but at the time was Navision, just shortly after the Microsoft acquisition of that. So I've been focused on Navision or Business Central now since I think that was about 2004, actually. That's right, 2004, when I first started with that. Kind of fell in love with it from the very beginning, and kind of haven't looked back since. Prior to that, the technology side, I was with another consumer products company, which has now become one of the larger consumer products company in the world, Reckitt Benckiser. And we were primarily into soaps. We did environmentally friendly soap and private label soap for a lot of retailers. I was on the operations side of that. So I've been coming at this world now from kind of different spots, different places. And the kind of my final stop here is to be on the client side as an account manager or customer engagement specialist, as we officially title it here, to really work directly with customers and keep them happy with their Business Central and Navision solutions, and to move forward in that role here with Innovia.
Very nice.
Wow.
And
Steve, let me dig into the skateboard related history that
sure.
I'm just kidding.
No, we got a time limit on this, Jeff.
Fine, Steve. Steve, you'll find, Jim, that Steve oftentimes likes to prevent me from talking.
So the skate thing, I was not into skate at that point. I mean, I learned how to skate on metal wheels, if you can imagine. This is long before the polyurethane wheels were, but I had the mentality. Surf relates to ocean, although I don't surf. I'm very much into the ocean, and so it was that water mentality has always been a big part of my background. In fact, that's what got me my current wife, and she was an intern at the company that I was working for, and we spent a lot of time together and formed a real connection. And we got married about 10, 11 years now ago, and it's all because of that water relationship that's kept it going.
Awesome. Well, Steve, do you I think I actually cut you off. You had a question or a follow-up for Jim?
Well, I guess I was just going to say that when I started 5 years ago, I think into this ERP nav world. I think Jim was one of the first ISVs that I met when Jim was with Lanham. And so, Jim, how long were you with Lanham prior to joining Innovia?
I was there for just slightly over 10 years. I joined Lanham from, well, at that time it was Tectura, a partner, and I had been kind of the Lanham guy, so to speak, at Tectura. I had always been a fan, and decided that I kind of was ready for a change, and reached out and joined the Lanhams, as I said, 10 years ago. And I always liked their solution. I thought they were a great, smart solution, and really enjoyed working with it. It was really nice to be on a different side of the channel for a while as well.
Yeah,
Great.
that's,
And,
I had no idea that you were actually on this side of the so you I guess as we kind of think about how Innovia has built our account management team, everyone has different strengths, and certainly with your background outside of Lanham, but just your general ERP Microsoft Dynamics background, what do you think? What do you feel most strongly about in terms of working with your customer base that you can help them with?
I've said in the past that everything I've done before has led me to do a really great job at what I'm doing today. And there's an old adage that goes something along the lines of, work at something that you are passionate about and love, and it'll never be a job. And I feel that really strongly about that. I never wake up each morning and say, gosh, I got to go to work. I wake up and I get to go to work today. And I know that sounds trite, but it's really true. I love the fact that I came from a consumer products background, and actually even before that, I spent some time in the U.S. Navy, so I have some understanding of what that was like as well, and that structure and that order. But working on the consumer side of the business to get into the consulting side of the business, at first, I was really stoked. I have an accounting and MIS degree from Cal State Fullerton from the 90s, and so I have the background on the intellectual side or the education side, but then actually getting my hands walking the shop floor where we were primarily what's the word I'm looking for? Contract manufacturer. We didn't have any of our own manufacturing, but I had contract manufacturers all over the country. So to go into a bottle shop where they're blowing the injection molded bottles, and then go to another place in the Midwest that did our spice blends, and understand what goes on with that kind of process manufacturing and those kind of elements. It's just a great background to bring to now the system side. So I guess I'm really looking forward to having that day-to-day contact now as an account specialist to really help customers understand how they can leverage their investment in Business Central. And then when we need to look elsewhere, to really be that objective source for information that comes with some experience to help them choose an ISV solution or a customization solution when it's time to extend it to areas that it just doesn't go. I'm really looking forward to that process.
Awesome.
So, question I had, Jim, was when I heard you were coming, I kept thinking, boy, Jim has probably called on a lot of partners. He's been in a lot of different type of industries with your previous background. And so what drew you to Innovia?
Wow. So in my early days at Lanham, I regularly would get phone calls from customers that said, hey, Jim, we need help. And it was specifically around the Lanham Solutions, of course. And so I developed a stable of partners that I knew I could call on to get it done and to get it done right. And so quality in my personal delivery is important. And I extended that out to where I wanted to work as well. And so when I pick up the phone and call Tom and say, hey, Tom, I got a customer, they got a problem. Here's the situation. Can you help them out? It was always a can do. And in most cases, when the customer engaged, the end result was a positive result. So I like that concept of working with current customers that want some help, and I wanted that quality partner that I could rely on, and there are several out there, but Innovia was the one that resonated best with me from a personality perspective, from the people that I've interacted with over the years. I mean, I think I'm coming up on 7 years now of having attended as a sponsor. Back then, it was ABC Computer, way back or up in Wapaka, to the customer conferences. So I've been to quite a few. I've known quite a few people, and I just thought it was a great personality fit, and obviously a great professional and intellectual fit as well.
So did Jeff actually call you back when you were with Lanham?
So Tom was usually my point of contact. From
okay.
sales guy to sales guy, Tom was usually my point of contact there.
He avoided that, Jeff. I noticed, but that's another conversation.
He's gonna do well in sales. He's got that. He's savvy. That's what I'll say. Actually, you know what? I remember calling Jim, who would call me back if he couldn't take my call, when I was like frantically trying to figure out what I was doing with some Lanham opportunities, or if we were trying to get Lanham to work in our demo environment. And he was always very helpful. So I'm also super excited to have him on the team.
There's a couple things that come to mind when you mention that. First of all, it's my personal work ethic to never leave a call or an email unanswered at the end of the day. Sometimes the answer is, I got it. I can't get back to you today. I can't solve your problem today. I can't answer your question today, but I hear you. That's the number one. That's number one. And it really bothers me. Even today on our internal call, I heard there was an ISV that is not responding to one of our sales guys. Quite honestly, I don't understand that, especially in this day and age. There's a lot of choices out there in Business Central from an ISV perspective. I can't think of a single application that is one and done, the only one, right? There are options. Right. So for someone to be not responsive, I simply can't understand. So that's number one. And the second thing is I've always wanted to make sure that I was responsive with good answers as quickly as I could get it done. So that's been my experience with working with the team here. And I know there's a lot of great people here. I'm really looking forward to working with them.
And I think you just made a couple good points, Jim, because, coming from a background of sales, you look at the number of sales is that 50% of salespeople never follow up. And after they only make one call. Like if it's the 7 to 12 rule, that it takes usually 7 to 12 calls to make a sale, but less than 10% of the people ever call back. And still to this day, I did sales training for a large pharma company. I couldn't understand, just people want to be kept up to date, like you said, call back. By the end of the day. And, that's so good to hear, because it's, people just want to kind of know where they're at. Right. And if you can't do it today, when can you do it? Can you let me know? Right.
Well, exactly. And the reality is we're all busy for the most part and often. And the answer might very well be, I just don't have an answer today, but I'm not going to ignore your response. Now, I understand on the other side, right? If I'm a customer and I'm looking to buy something, there's no reason that I have to call you back and let when you need me to call. I get that. We've all ignored salespeople before. Personally, I try not to. I let people know I'm not your customer, don't have time or something like that. But I get it on the other side.
Nice. And, Jeff was an account manager for how many years, Jeff?
Actually, probably 7 or so. I think the first maybe 2.5 or 3 years I was a technical person.
Right. And, with Jeff's background of being a technical person, then part of the customer engagement team, and now he basically, and you're going to find out, Jim, that Jeff has a problem telling people no. So people take advantage of them. So make sure you get part of that pool when you need help. But
well, I think that's the problem actually with our industry in general. And I say problem here with air quotes. I hope you can see them. As consultants, what we want to do is we want to be the white knight. We want to solve problems. We love it when we come in with a solution and the customer is like, awesome. The problem is not everyone can afford to pay for awesome, right? And so that's always the challenge. In my Solomon days, so I started as a Solomon consultant, man, working on Beetrieve. Actually, my very first gig was writing FRX reports for a stock brokerage here in South Orange County, California, where I live. And I spent 2 months just doing financial reports. It was great because it was a great introduction to FRX. But from a consultant, I moved up to eventually running the practice of about 12 people in the Southwest here in the Solomon world. So I did some vendor relationships. At that time, it was Solomon and not Microsoft. But I also had some people, consultants out in the field. And one of the biggest things I had to figure out was, how can we say no? How do we teach the consultants to say no and to control that scope, right? In an unlimited budget, where here's the checkbook, guys, make this thing with perfect, sing with perfect pitch. That's a perfect world, but that's not a reality. Even pre-Y2K, we had much bigger budgets than what we see today. Everyone wants it quick and inexpensive. And so learning how to say no is one of the biggest challenges that a consultant has, partly because there's obviously a financial side of billable hours. Look, that's our reality. But there's also this, at least on the good consultants, there's this concept of solving problems and the gratification that comes from being able to do that. Sorry, that's long-winded, but that's always been a challenge in our world.
Yeah, I'm going to work on that next year.
Jeff loves to demo, by the way.
Oh, who doesn't? Oh, well, I
you're talking to one guy here.
Oh, so now see, I love it. I love the interaction. I love the demo. I love working through and showing customers the things that they want to see that are going to be important to them. I love that whole concept.
Oh, there you go, Jeff. You got somebody else that loves to demo.
Yes, I cannot wait till. I think that really that's the sort of the model that we've been operating under for the last several years, as you know better than anyone where our strengths are from a sales perspective, and I don't know if you use the word rescuing Nav or Business Central installations, but I think it's great that we've got along with adding just the general business expertise that we expect our account management team to have, that we've got another person with a really deep understanding of the application itself. I think that will. Not everyone has to know that, but I think, certainly if I get hit by a bus, we need to have some other options. And it just, goes to the strength of the team that we're building. I think it's awesome. So yeah, I'm kidding around right now because Jim is relatively new, but he is, he works for the same boss that I do. And Tom is great about enabling the people that work for him to get the most out of us. So I'm sure that Jim will be doing a fair amount of demos in the not too distant future.
Yeah, and I expect that. That's good. I think that, well, I used to cringe when I would sit through demos. Back in my previous world, I would sit through demos, either waiting for my turn to come up, or sometimes I helped a partner through that didn't have a deep understanding of warehousing. But then I would cringe at some of the demos that I would see. There's some partners, I honestly don't know how they sold anything. And it literally cringed when I heard things that were said, especially, we all have met him. It's the sales guy. Yeah, we can do that. He has no clue what he's talking about, right? The software can't do that, can't even get close. But then we get guys that'll say yes to anything. And I, this goes back to your question also, Steve. I've seen and interacted with a lot of the guys here at Innovia, and I know that's just not the answer. They're straightforward answers, and they're truthful answers, and we don't try to represent software to be able to do what it can't do. We talk about what it would take to make it do what it needs to do.
Right. And yeah, when I talk with prospective customers, I say, one thing you'll get from Innovia, we'll be transparent. We'll tell you what we think we can and can't do. And and Holly has a great saying, right? Nav will do anything you want it to do, how much you want to spend.
Yeah.
So we and the cool thing about having guys like, with you, Jim, with your background, I mean, one of the neat things that we do at Innovia is, you being an account manager, is that you're free to the customer. You're not cheap to us, but you're free to the customer. And the cool thing is, you're finding out now. Granted, right now this podcast is during the COVID-19, so Jim's not out there meeting with a lot of the customers. So we're doing a lot of things via Teams and kind of over the phone. And we're looking forward to when he can get out in the field. But just to have those conversations with somebody when the meter's not running, and I'm kind of interested to get your take on it. If when you have a chance to sit down with somebody, a customer, maybe you're talking with your background on manufacturing and distribution and all that, the fact that you can really spend an hour, whatever the time frame is, and they're not going to get a bill for it. I mean, they're going to be more open, right? They're going to tell you more. And the more that we know as a partner, the more we can give them good direction.
Well, and I think that's a big differentiator as well. I can't tell you the number of times when as part of the kind of pre-planning for a demo, one of the questions I would regularly ask is, who's your partner, and do we want to invite your partner in for the demo? I think it's important for a partner to be, first of all, to share their knowledge, but secondly, so they're aware of things that were said and things that were not said and questions that were not asked. But then the customer would come back to me and say, oh, no, we can't use the partner. We don't want the partner there because they're going to bill us for the demo time. And when I first couple of times I heard that, I was really kind of stunned that maybe it's just this one partner, maybe this, but no, it's far more often than not that partners bill for time while they're sitting through a demo that an ISV is presenting, when ultimately the partner, as we know, will get a sale or a portion of the sale. I'm stunned by that. So yeah, that was another criteria that kind of went into my conversation with, or decision, I should say, to come to here to Innovia, was because I think that's a fair way to do business, right? And so that was just another little arrow there in the quiver.
It's like with lawyers, right? When I've had people tell us, customers that we've gotten, that they called to complain about a bill and got a bill for that.
Yes.
I was trying to imagine if that had been me calling to complain about a bill and somebody sends me a bill for that conversation. That would not be a good conversation. No. And I'm sure it happens. Yeah. And so, Jeff, I got a question for you. So being an account manager for that many years, I always like to bring up, if my old self can go back and tell my new self, my current self can go back and tell my old self something, I wish I would have known this. So what would you tell Jim as a new account manager?
That's a great question, Steve. Yeah, I'm taking down notes, Jeff.
First of all, I would say that he's a lot smarter than old Jeff was, as well as new Jeff. So I don't know. I think that well, I'm going to maybe not answer this directly as a true sales professional, but I think that that relying on your team is something that I wish I did more of. Now, I think personally, it was somewhat rewarding for me to try to figure out all the technical challenges myself, but ultimately it probably didn't serve the customer well. So I would say, especially now that we've got such a great team with lots of expertise that maybe we didn't have 7 or 8 years ago. So I guess that would be my number one. My number one recommendation. You have any words of wisdom for him, Steve?
Well, I think what you said is a good point, because like when I came in, I didn't have an ERP background. It was more of the CRM and the sales side of things. So when the South Bend office, which is now full, had 3 people. So poor Tom, I would take a notepad and just pound them for an hour or two. And then, Steve, you can reach out to the account managers if you wanted to. So I kind of I took kind of what Jeff said. So I really leaned heavily on a lot of our account managers to kind of learn. And actually our CEO, Alan, was an account manager at the time. And just, that plethora of knowledge to kind of understand it is helped me. And, the cool thing is kind of the culture aspect, right? Innovia is one team. And I think everybody wants to help the customer. And as we do, and as we had our quarterly meeting last week, it's kind of like through the customer's eyes, how are we doing? And, to me, that's kind of cool, because I came from a company that had over 60,000 employees. It was one thing to say it, and, here having, about 60 employees, that culture aspect, and everybody's just so willing to help. So it's pretty cool. So, but Jim, you're out in Southern California, sunny California.
Well, it's not sunny today, but yes, normally it is beautiful sunny.
Nice. So most of us are kind of on the other side of the Mississippi, the east side of it. And so we got Daniel in Colorado. We got you out there. So we're excited to have more people on the West Coast. And so now when we have meetings in the morning, we got to be cognizant that, even though Jim's an early riser, right? So Jeff, one of the benefits when we got Jim is we moved our one call from, you're on Central Time. We moved it up another hour. So, but
it still helps me an hour.
Poor Jim's first call, it was going to be at 6:00 in the morning. He's like, wait a second.
Yeah. The first one came through at 6, and I said, Tom, I am an early riser, but 6 might be just a smidgen early. So
yeah, have to put the coffee IV in at that time if you're going to have to. At least for me, it would be.
Yeah. Well, if I have to say anything, intelligent, it takes a few minutes for it to rev up. And we do have a 4-year-old. That's a whole story in itself, if we want to go down that road. But we have a 4-year-old here at home too, as well. And it takes a little while to help get her up and out. My wife and I both work, obviously, and so it's a team effort here in the morning.
And it was nice, actually, on our call this morning. The whole sales team got to meet your daughter.
Yeah, she got to say hello. She comes down. She hasn't been shy about jumping into meetings since, although I've been remote now for 14 years. Even before my Lanham days, I was working at a partner, and we had, like many of the partners out there, had closed up offices in the early 2000s when the economy kind of went south. And so working remotely has been something I've done for the last 14 years. And so she's been part of a number of meetings.
Nice. Usually we hear dogs in the background with team meetings and so forth. So that was nice to meet your daughter this morning. So, Jeff, do you have any other questions for Jim, or?
I don't think so. I think is there? Maybe we should ask him. Is there anything else he wants to share with the dozens of listeners of our podcast?
Well, look, I'm thrilled to be here. I do see this as a kind of the next step in my career, my professional growth, whatever you want to call that. I knew that being that pure account executive, which we used to refer to as the hunter killers and so on, that's not really my personality. I want to come at this in a different way. I want to come with deep industry knowledge and software knowledge and work with customers to help leverage their investment. Not so much that kind of, how do I be without being so stereotypical, that backslapping, cigar smoking, handshaking, kind of AE account exec, that it wasn't going to be my personality. But this step is the right step for me in what hopefully is my last job or task in my professional world.
Jeff, I noticed he said the cigar smoking part.
Yeah, I'm with him there. You guys have to stay outside the building for that. Like, does Jim know that he's offended like half of the executive crew at Innovia by saying that?
Well, so I say that, but I want you to keep the entire stereotype in view and not just focus in on that one element. But you kind of get my thing. Yes, I'm very aware. I have noticed.
That's right, Jim. I know, but well, we're just having a little fun with you here, and
of course.
And so how many of the Innovia podcasts have you listened to so far?
Well, including this one, would be one.
So this will be your first one you're going to listen to, I take it, right?
It will be my first one. Yes, I'll have to go back and look in the archives.
Well, that's we kind of poke fun at some of the people we've gotten on here because I think now everybody at Innovia knows we actually have a podcast, and so we're getting more people from Innovia on, and the cool thing is, hopefully, you'll share it with your friends and other, past colleagues. That it's really neat. We're just trying to reach out to our customers and let them know, and now they're going to call and say, "I want Jim now. I want his knowledge," and so we have to fight them off. And we're looking forward to getting you out in the field when the timing's right for that. It'll be exciting. So for all the customers that are listening, wondering when they're going to meet you, our Innovia Customer Conference that's coming up in May is now going to be a virtual customer conference, which is really cool. We're still finalizing some of the details on that, but it's going to be May 21st. So Jim will be on that, and it'll be what's the word, Jeff, I'm looking for that it's not going to be Teams. It's going to be more of a platform to where it's actually like you're going to a conference. So we're pretty excited about seeing how that's going to work for us. Because, one of the things I think, Jim, you kind of learn, we love bringing content to the Innovia customers because, we strongly feel that the more that they know about their nav, Business Central, whatever products we're supporting, and they can do on their own, then we can help them more with the heavy lifting. So we're excited to have you on the team. And anything else you'd like to add, Jim?
Looking forward to getting out there. I know the customers that are on my list that I will be acquiring, many of them I've worked with in the past. And so I'm looking forward to meeting them face to face and getting out of the house.
Well, we're excited to have you on the customer engagement team. And Jeff, any other questions for you, for Jim?
No, I'm glad to have him on the team as well.
Well, we're glad to have you. And as for all our listeners, as you know, you can follow us on LinkedIn. We're also on Twitter. I am at Waltz Steve. Jim, do you have a Twitter account?
Yes.
Is it for work or social?
No, it's a social, and I don't even remember what the login is. I'm not very Twitter. I'm not a heavy Twitter user.
Well, okay. So for those that want to reach out to Jim on Twitter, that's not going to happen. Anyway,
I'll have to create an Innovia Twitter identity, I suppose.
No one else really does because I think people mainly use it for social. I think, but that's something. Who knows what's down in the future? So
I am on LinkedIn.
You're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I am on LinkedIn. I think that's the one that I have. Okay. I just never grasped the whole tweet thing.
I gotcha. So remember, you can follow us on Twitter and also on our website. We'll be doing, I'm sure sometime this year, Jim will be doing a webinar for our customers. And Jeff did one recently on Teams. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that one, that's great, especially with all the remote working going on. So I think that's at that note, I think we're going to end the podcast. This podcast is over.